Good morning, listeners. Happy Sunday. Welcome to our discussion on strategy number 7, setting up anti-fraud or corruption councils. From the introductory part of this series of discussions, we noted that the fraudsters think 7 times a day, whereas the ordinary managers, the managers, the staff, and even the ordinary people think rarely. Because according to Socrates, thinking is the hardest work that a human person can do, and that is why very few people engage in thinking. What type of thinking I'm talking about? I'm talking about creative thinking, the thinking that can come up with something, with a strategy against the fraudsters. Strategy number 7, according to me, should be strategy number 1 because creative thinking by all staff being led by top management is able to come up with policies, systems, proactive procedures that can be able to catch up with the fraudsters targeting an organization. To assist the managers and staff to creatively think regularly, at least um, at least quarterly, monthly, or annually, an organization seriously requires structured brainstorming sessions in the form of councils or committees that are able to hold regularly. What I want to say is that staff and the management, including the board of directors, should not be allowed to sit idle, carrying out tasks routinely. They should be able to sit down on a brainstorming session where they can think, where they can propose, consider policies, propose and consider policies or systems that can proactively respond to current challenges as far as fraud and the corruption risks or threats are concerned. The functions of the councils or committees. The council should have the following mandate. Number one, brainstorming on the organization's control and the security systems and report the weaknesses discovered. These councils encourages the creative thinking that is required for effective fight against fraud and corruption. Number two, sharing of intelligence. Intelligence here means information. When the departmental and sectional heads meet regularly, they have an opportunity to share information of what they have seen or heard so that they might discuss it and consider its importance in detecting fraud or corruption. What do I mean here? When departmental leaders meet, they are able to share from their knowledge of the red flags to share what they have seen or what they have heard the other staff talking about. about lifestyle changes of staff, lifestyle changes of even the directors, the extravagance or certain generosity by and from the staff and even the directors. We said that when these symptoms or red flags are seen, there must be an undercover investigation to find out whether the red flags point to fraud or corruption or they point to changes in the income of the, the suspect. We said that expenditure, the expenditures that look beyond one's means may not always indicate fraud or corruption. It may indicate that it might have acquired some additional legal income to support its change in lifestyle. We specifically quoted or mentioned the marriage of someone to a wealth partner who inherited uh, some good resources from parents or relatives. And when this partnership starts and is consummated through a marriage, then the staff might tap into the resources to adjust his or her lifestyle. And that is allowed. That is legal. But if it is discovered that this person has got no other income from the employment income and the the lifestyle has changed drastically, then there must be more and a thorough investigation to find out what is financing his extra lifestyle. Number three, informing the department heads about the identified danger signs that require to be monitored closely. This follows through training on fraud and corruption red flags. This is closely related to point number three, informing the department heads. Once in number three, information has been shared about the red flags, then the departmental heads must be informed so that they can institute undercover investigation. Number four, advising management on the additional controls or security systems required to seal the identified loopholes. The recommendations by the councils must be sent to the board. Once the council discovers that there are loopholes that are definitely leading to losses to the organization, the council should recommend improvements to the systems, procedures that will be able to seal the identified loopholes to the top management. Why? The top management, that is the board, is the one that is responsible for authorizing changes to internal security and the control systems. They are the ones who can authorize more expenditures on the internal controls and the security systems. In case the amendment requires employment of more staff or employment of more resources, assets that will be able to facilitate the sealing of the identified loopholes for fraud and corruption. Number five, proposing training programs for staff to enable them to detect wrongdoing and report it. The importance of training staff or employees is discussed in details on the staff training as a strategy against fraud and corruption. It was noted under that lesson that organizations that have city managers consider training to be an unnecessary overhead, and yet they are able to incur losses to the tune of millions due to fraud and corruption. In a way, if the organizations do not budget for training staff and all employees against fraud and corruption, then they are indirectly and stupidly budgeting for fraud and corruption to occur and lead the organization into millions of, of loss. Membership in the councils. The forum should be members of these councils. Number one, cleaners, messengers, and drivers. Cleaners, messengers, and drivers. When I mention the cleaners, messengers, and drivers, many people, especially senior management, who look down on cleaners, messengers, and drivers, think that I'm playing around. They think that I've lost my listening capacity. These are the people who lead organizations into losses because of or due to lack of understanding. Any staff in an organization is eligible to join the councils right from the boardroom to the floor. This is where cleaners, drivers, messengers cannot miss. Are they not part of the organization? Are they not part of the army we talked about? That is the organization can use against the fraud and corruption? They are. And in fact, the cleaners, messengers, drivers are the people who first get the information about a fraud or corruption that is going on in the organization. Why? It is because they are usually underrated. Their intelligence, their capacity to understand things and analyze them to come to meaningful uh, meaningful meaningful solutions is usually underrated. Many of the people in the organization think that the messengers, uh, cleaners, and drivers are of low intelligence and therefore are an inferior staff. Having the lowest position in an organization does not mean that you are valueless in that organization, that you cannot have in that organization, that you are not intelligent you are not intelligent enough. That is why I recommend that cleaners, messengers, and drivers be number one to be considered for the membership in the anti-fraud and anti-corruption uh, councils or committees. This type of staff interact with all cadres of staff or employees in the organization. They interact with the senior people as well as the lowest cadres of staff, the cleaners and the messengers and drivers. According to my observation and findings, they are the best employees to detect fraud and corruption. They are the first lines of the intelligence gathering within the organization. They are usually sent on errands which are official mixed with private, and therefore they can easily unearth a fraud or corruption. They should be involved. They will share very good intelligence with the other uh, council members. These staff are in a position to gather information easily since they enter any office and are often underrated. Their intelligence, their understanding, their listening capacity is usually underrated, and therefore they can easily get the information of the wrongdoing that is going on or starting in the organization. In fact, if organizations are to detect fraud and corruption early, they should listen to cleaners, messengers, and the drivers and take the information they give seriously. Number two, junior managers. Junior management must also be represented in the councils so that the councils can get information from junior management level. Middle level managers. The middle level managers must be well represented in the council so that they can also contribute to the brainstorming and the sharing of information. Senior managers, there should be adequate representatives from this level. Top managers, top managers in the council will surely facilitate the forwarding of recommendations to the board, and they are sitting in the council will enable them to appreciate the contributions to the board, to the council, all the brainstorming sessions by all staff, including the lowest cadre of staff I have mentioned in number one. The directors. Each department, subsidiary, or division must have one of these directors in the council. The presence of directors in the council will motivate the rest of the team to participate well, and the directors in the council will form a very good link between the council and the board. The frequency of the council's meetings. The frequency of meetings will depend on the needs of the organization, ability to afford absence from regular duties to attend the councils, and the commitment of the organization to minimize or eradicate fraud and corruption. I recommend monthly meetings to facilitate thinking to catch up with white collar criminals. The more frequent, the better. If monthly meetings are not possible, the quarterly meetings can do. It will be better than nothing. It will be better than thinking, sitting idly without thinking without any creative thinking. Quarterly meetings or monthly meetings can do a great service to an organization as far as the early detection, prevention, and deterrence of fraud and corruption is concerned. Discovery of wrongdoing. The council facilitates the discovery of fraud or corruption through sharing of information. The other staff should also be encouraged to detect and report any wrongdoing that might lead to loss. It will be noted that organizations with such councils shall have less instances and early detection of fraud or corruption that slips through. All employees must be made aware that all situations raising fraud or corruption suspicion must be reported in good faith. Reporting lines. The reporting lines outlined in the whistleblowing policy, as will be discussed in the forthcoming lesson, must be followed for effective reporting. The members of the councils must be tasked to remind the rest of the staff to report wrongdoings for the benefit of the organization and all the employees. Conclusion. As much as such councils can help in the fight against, against corruption and fraud, they must be evaluated thoroughly before such a work is awarded to them. They should be attached to the respective corruption unit or department in that company. Lastly, they must be people of high integrity, level of understanding, and be also uh, advanced in age. When the members in the councils are advanced in age, they are people of high integrity, they are able to perceive the the symptoms of wrongdoing and then be able to report to the council for discussion and the recommendation for undercover investigation. That is the end of this lesson on strategy number 7. Thank you very much for listening. Bye bye. In like 2 hours from now, I'll be coming online for strategy number 8.